Welcome everyone. I'll begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Welcome. Today's presenter is Pauline Stainer, who's our Business Development Manager. Pauline has 25 years of experience within the insurance industry, gaining knowledge through a range of roles, including sales, underwriting, product, relationship management, and broking. Pauline has been with CHU since May 2021. She becomes the life of the party when out with friends and someone asks an insurance question. Pauline's passion for insurance is only rivaled by her love of champagne and obsession with cats. Ladies and gentlemen, Pauline Stainer.
Excellent. Thank you, Arnie. That lovely introduction, much appreciated. My husband did point out to me last night that in my bio, I failed to mention him and my children. So this is their plug. They do sit, pretty close up with the cats, probably slightly behind the champagne as well, but they're there. Okay, all right, down to business today, everyone. So we're here to talk about Build to Rent. So this is one of our newer products in the suite that came out about 2 years ago. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping. You will get points for attendance today. You don't need to worry about putting your names in the chat. We do know that you've logged in. If, however, you've got a larger office and you've signed in from one device, just perhaps send a list to your local BDM with who's on board today so that we can make sure that you get your certificates out. We also have in the chat, we've got Paul Queechin, our New South Wales BDM, who will be there to answer questions. So if you can leave the chat for the questions, he'll be able to respond to you as we're going along today. Okay, so Build to Rent. Now, a little bit first of all about CHU. Most of you on the call, I'm hoping, would be very aware of what we do and why we're here. We win lots of awards. We're very proud of that. We've got ANZIIF Awards coming up next month. Hopefully we might pick up a couple more. We have got roughly about half of the strata market covered under CHU and flex policies. And we've got 24-hour claims, 7-day-a-week claims service through the emergency hotline as well. And we have been around for a total this year of 45 years. So if you haven't heard of us by now, I'd be concerned. Okay, so our products. So today, like I said, we're discussing the Build to Rent. You're probably all very familiar with the other products that we have on offer. But I thought I'd just point out as well that for those of you who haven't had any experience with our CHU services, we have our own assessors in-house through CHU Assess. We have our own building consultants through CHU Consult. And we've also just introduced CHU Inspect as well. So we're not talking about that today, but if you would like some more information, head to our website because that's a very exciting new part of our business where we're running inspections now, and it doesn't even have to be CHU properties, doesn't have to be covered with CHU. So jump on the website, have a look at that one. But Build to Rent, so what is it? Why have we got it? So we introduced this a couple of years ago because we saw a bit of a gap in the market. It's relatively a new trend here in Australia, but it's very big overseas, especially in Europe. Basically, it's for properties that they appear very, very similar to strata risks. Now, given that we have got 45 years experience in the strata market, we figured that we would be best placed to come into this section of the market and create a niche product that previously there was not really anything tailored for it. So you would have probably maybe heard about this type of thing a little bit more recently. These are some very recent headlines from around the country about Build to Rent. And basically, state governments are now getting on board and supporting this, obviously due to a huge housing crisis that we're all facing and right across the country. So this is available in most states. Basically, it's opened up to developers who are signing up, and there's a really big incentive to them. Most states are actually offering a reduction in land tax of up to 50%. So they're all jumping on board very quickly. New South Wales actually was the first to go ahead with this type of thing. They opened their doors to build to rent in Olympic Park back in 2020 with 315 apartments there. Queensland, any Queenslanders on the call, you're probably hearing quite a lot about this at the moment. There's 3 current projects underway there. Fortitude Valley, Newstead and Brisbane have all got some projects going on. About 1,200 apartments are going to be released, and about 490 of those are going to be provided with discounted rent. So really, really helping that affordable housing. Victoria over there, Lendlease has actually just signed up with Daiwa House, and they're creating the country's largest build to rent to date. It'll be a $650 million tower. So very big sums in shoe we're looking at in some of these cases too. South Australia, we're also getting on board down here as well. We've got our first development happening out in Bowden with some land sold to a developer by the state government, and that's due for completion in 2027. So, like I said, it is quite a fixture in the market at the moment. People are talking about it. So just got a little clip to play for you here from Sunrise.
A new housing solution could help more Aussies find a rental. Big companies like Meriton, Lendlease and Mirvac are building apartment blocks that will be reserved for renters only.
So there are currently 72 build-to-rent developments in the pipeline across Australia. 11 are already up and running, and Sunrise has had a look inside one.
Jemima Ashley is a renter, and she has the same struggles as so many other Aussies.
I had looked at over 100 apartments over the course of 3 or 4 months and found that I was being flooded with different apartments. There was at least 50 to 60 different people at every house open I was going to.
That's when she discovered Live Munro, an apartment complex in Melbourne built by Mirvac and only used by renters.
All of the amenities that I was really looking for. I was looking for someone that would have a co-working space, would have a comfortable apartment, would have someone that was really safe, but also where I could find a community and meet people.
Build-to-rent apartment blocks offer longer-term leases, like 3 years, so housing is more secure. You'll likely pay rent to the company that manages the block rather than an estate agent or landlord. And there's no doubt that we need that housing, with just a 1.42% vacancy rate nationwide.
So now you've actually been able to have a look inside what one of these buildings actually looks like. So looking at that, you can see why we did get involved from the CHU point of view. It is very, very similar to what we already cover with our strata policies. So we're 45 years of doing multi-use dwellings. We figured this was a very good space for us to play in.
New housing solution could help. New housing solution.
We don't need to listen to that again. Okay, so what is build to rent? So the product itself. So this is designed specifically for residential properties. And so it's going to be owned by one owner. Now that could be a developer, it could be a managed investment trust or some form of other entity. The property is not registered as a strata title. So there is no body corporate, there's no owners corporation, no strata corporation or strata company involved in this. And the units are leased directly to tenants under individual tenancy agreements as well. The units, and the big one here is that the units can't be sold individually. So if it was going to be sold, it would have to be sold as one complete property, not as individual units. So again, so it's residential is what we're targeting here. One owner, could be a builder, developer, managed trust, single owner, other entity, might be potentially a super fund or something like that. So now I've sort of run you through what Build to Rent was designed for originally and why it has the name that it has. I wanted to share with you some potential other parts of the market that you might find this really helpful. I know not everybody on this call is going to have the opportunity to sign up things like the $650 million building going up in Victoria, but you may have stuff already sitting in your portfolios where this could help you out. So having a look at these pictures here. So if you take the one up in the top right-hand corner there, you'll notice this is, sort of 1960s, 1970s, cream brick building. They're all over the countryside. They look very similar to a strata as well. Multi-use, multi-dwellings on the one property. Now, as long as that is sitting on a Torrens title, so those apartments can't be sold individually, so one title and can't be sold individually, then this could be appropriate for your clients as well. The very similar to the one down in the left-hand corner there as well. Down the bottom there as well, you've got a row of townhouses, which, may look like, potentially community title or things like that, but they could also just be sitting on one title. I will actually point out that these are actually some properties that we have got on cover. So these are real situations that we have. The big picture there on the left, now this is something that we've come across a very good use for Build to Rent for, and it's where you've got a much larger block and, perhaps out in the country or, in some of our older suburban neighbourhoods. And with the larger blocks, we've got, might be mum and dad putting on a couple of additional houses just for some additional rental income. So that particular one there has got 2 rental properties on it as well as the main house. So the main house the owner still lives in. So that is also something that we can cater for as well, is where the owner is actually living on the property too. The one on the right in the middle, now this is actually taken from the South Australian Planning Association website. So that orange boundary around it is what comes up when you put in this address. So that orange boundary with all the little crosses in it means that is on one title. So when we're talking Torrens title, we're talking single title. If that was, say, a community title, then you would see individual blocks within that. Now, each state does have its own version of this. This is the South Australian version, but if you haven't either used before the government websites to show what a property title is, you are more than welcome to jump onto the phone to one of our underwriters or one of your local BDMs, and we can send you the link for this because it is applicable in each state and they are all different. We can walk you through how to use it and how to look this up. So this will tell you whether or not it is a strata title, whether or not it's a community title, or whether or not it is a Torrens title, in which case Build to Rent would be the way to go. We can also as well do government affordable housing through Build to Rent too. So of course, we talked about who it's designed for, but of course there are going to be times that Build to Rent is not the appropriate solution for the client. So what we can't do, so it's properties with more than 10% of the floor space being used for commercial purposes. So we can go up to 9%. So if you're talking about a large, say 12-story apartment sort of looking complex, and it's got a little cafe down the bottom, that's totally fine. We just need to know what the tenancy is in that commercial space. same as we would in a residential strata as well. We can't do tenants in common. It's not designed for developers who then want to sell the individual units, so therefore they are getting either a strata or a community title put on it. It's also not designed for the tenants and the landlords. Now, when I say landlords, I mean that the contents for an owner-occupier we don't cover under the build to rent, or for other people living in the building. So it has to be the owner that takes out the policy, and it's not designed for strata titles. So if you've got a developer that has built one of these build to rent type scenarios, there are times that they are potentially in the future going to decide to get to apply to council to get it put under a strata or a community title. That's fine as long as it's in the future, it hasn't gone through, and at this point in time their whole intention for use is just to lease it out. They might want to do that for a few years and then potentially look at selling it off individually later on down the track. If that was the case, once they then do apply to council to get a strata or community title changed over, we can then obviously change the policy over to one of our more appropriate products. It's also not designed for boarding houses or backpackers, those types of things. So basically works, you know, in the same way as a typical strata policy. So what's covered, and this is also where it sort of does mirror the cover that we offer under a strata policy. So we've got the four types of cover that we're offering. So the insured property, the public liability, machinery breakdown, and catastrophe cover. So the insured property, that's covering, of course, for any loss or damage or repairs to the property, and building and contents as well. When we're talking contents, we're talking the landlord contents. So same definition applies for contents under build to rent as what it would under a strata. So that's things like your carpets, your curtains, if they've got them furnished, potentially, those types of things. We do cover loss of rent as well. So we've, so again, very similar to our strata policy there. So obviously, you know, in the event that perhaps it becomes unlivable. What we don't cover under the policy is rent default. This particular policy was all put in motion during COVID. So as most of you would be aware, rent default was, you know, off the market for some time. So there isn't any rent default included in this. If you do have a client who particularly does want rent default, we can still cover the building under build to rent. Then you just need to look at taking out a separate landlord's policy to be able to include that rent default. Not the CHU landlord's cover, that is just for strata and community title. So a bit more under policy 1 under the insured property. So we still include our fusion of motors, electricity, gas, water and similar charges, environmental improvements as well, and that can be covered up to 20,000, and exploratory costs, replacement of defective parts, those types of things. The PDS is available on the CHU website as well. So for more information on all of the features, benefits and exclusions, you can jump on there and have a read through. The key fact sheet and target market determination are also available on the website. Now, the section policy 2, our public liability, of course, we have to include as well. So public liability extends to the whole entire property. So it is for, you know, those communal areas and so forth as well. So, and machinery breakdown. So considering that, like if you go back to the original build to rent idea that we came up with based on what is happening out in the market at the moment and what governments are encouraging, a lot of these buildings that are coming through now, they are going to be the high-rise type buildings. So you're probably going to have lifts and large air conditioning units and those types of things. So machinery breakdown could be quite important here. And catastrophe cover we include as well. So you'll see that there are quite a lot of similarities in terms of between the build to rent and our strata policy because it is designed for that community space. So what we've got covered, so what we can include in the sum insured on the policy is the building, and as I mentioned, the contents. So again, this is just the landlord contents. So it might be, again, like if it was furnished, it could be carpets, those types of things, or it might be contents in communal areas, washing machines, dryers, those types of things. It doesn't cover the owner's contents insurance if they are living in one of the units or apartments. So they would need to take out their own contents insurance policy. We're not covering any of the tenants' contents, those types of things. And so here, again, very similar in terms of description of what contents actually means under the policy, and also what it doesn't mean as well. So if you are talking to a client and you're suggesting this policy, it is a good idea to just familiarise yourself with that wording to make sure that if there is other cover that they do require, that they take that out or you help them take that out. And so that is that's the actual end of the presentation. There is a question slide here. I hope you have all been putting your questions through in the chat for Paul to answer for you. We're not going to do live questions on the webinar today, but if there is anything that we haven't answered that you are still looking for a bit of help with, or you, like I said, you would like to have a look at the government websites and understand how you can search yourself for property titles and look at boundaries and things like that, please do get in contact with either your local BDM or our wonderful underwriting team as well. So thank you all for coming, and we'll see you at the next one.